So welcome back to my channel, guys. Today I'm doing a Luxe Facial on my niece. But while I'm doing her facial, I wanted to tell a story. I thought this was like the perfect time to tell it. Even though you might don't care, but I definitely like telling people. I want to tell y'all how I met my fiance. So I used to be a sergeant with a security company. And clearly if I'm a sergeant, I'm a supervisor, so I have officers under me. So one of the officers was actually my fiance's twin brother. And they ended up having like a birthday party. Well, when I first met him, the twin, his brother, I didn't know he had a brother. I didn't know he had a twin or any other siblings. But anyway, so he invited me to his birthday party and I wasn't going to go, and it's just by chance that I ended up stopping to that birthday party. So he had sent me the address and I just happened to be coming through that way. It was me, my niece, and my daughter. So I was going to take them back to the house and I was like, well, I'm going to just stop and just, see what's what. So I pull up, I stop. I don't see the brother that I work with. I didn't see his car there. Of course, I knew where he drove because we worked together. But when I pulled up, his twin, which is the one that I date, the one that I'm engaged to, walked outside. And, well, to me, he was fine. He was tall, 6'6", 6'7", bow-legged. Of course, he was fine to me. So I was like, well, this is not the guy I work with, but they look, similar. They didn't look like twins. And I guess they identical twins, but they don't look identical to me. I guess people who don't know them will say they look identical, but to me, they don't look identical. But anyway, the same niece that's sitting right here, whose face I'm doing, she was actually in the car with me that day. So I was like, okay, give me a second. I'm going to run in here. I'm going to, just see. Just wanted to pop out since I was invited. Usually when people invite me to stuff, I usually try to show up because they didn't have to invite you. So he came outside and he was like, hey, how you doing? What's going on? So I was looking at him and I was like, well, no, this isn't the one I work with. This must be his brother. So I asked for his brother and he's like, oh, he's not here. He had to go somewhere and do something. And I was like, oh, okay. He invited me. I wanted to stop by. So he was like, oh, you can come in until he comes back. But in my head, I was already thinking, I don't have time. I just really wanted to stop by. So I go in. Of course, it's a few people there. Some girls, some guys. So I'm like, okay, he's like, you want something to drink? And I was like, oh, sure. I'll get something to drink. I didn't really want anything to drink because I'm not a drinker. But he was fine. So I was like, let me just keep him talking. So he gave me something to drink. And then I'm being all extra, kind of, sort of, but not really. Because when he poured my drink, it emptied the bottle. But it was a really pretty bottle. I don't know. I can't even remember what type of drink it was. Because that was, 5 years ago. So I was like, can I have the bottle? I was like, I paid such and such for this bottle. Then he gave it to me. And I was like, okay. Then he was like, I spoke to everybody else in the house. Introduced myself to the people who didn't know me. Some people didn't know me, but they had heard about me, I guess. So there was some other girl there that I guess that was there to see the brother, not the one to work with me, but the one that I'm engaged to. And she was being rude. And I was like, oh, is that your girlfriend? And he was like, no, I don't have a girlfriend. And I was like, oh, okay. So before I was getting ready to go, he was like, take my number. And you can come back. Because I was like, I have to leave. I have to go take them home. He's like, oh, we can come back. Yeah, I knew I wasn't going to go back because I found him attractive. And I was like, oh, no, I'm not coming back to this man's house. But I will definitely call him. But I didn't tell him I wasn't going to come back. So I get ready to leave. I leave. I never saw the twin that worked with me. He didn't come back when I was there. So I get home and I call him. But when I called him, some girl answered the phone. And I was like, is this? such and such. And she was like, yeah, but I don't know where he is. I was like, oh, okay, well, just tell him I called. And I don't know if it was like a girl that he was dealing with or what. Well, I know he didn't have anybody as far as a relationship because he had already told me that. So on and so forth. He ends up calling me back. And he's like, oh, are you coming back? I'm like, no, but I will come another day. And it just went from there. He was like, oh, I could tell he didn't really want me talking to other guys while he and I were talking, but he hadn't officially asked me to be in a relationship with him yet. So he officially ended up asking me, and I definitely said yes. Thank you for listening to my story.